Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I'll take time to thank Sean and everybody over at the Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to host this place. Oops, powder pan down. I want to take time to thank, oh crap. Jim, keep him busy for a second. I forgot to grab something that they're going to want to see.
Well, I hate to say this, but I think the audio quality is going to be pretty rough tonight. And also, it looks like it's going to be just Mike and I. And it'd be interesting to see what Mike comes up with. For those of you that are curious, I did some checking on my reloading room that I ordered. Yeah, my oversized shed. And it's probably not going to be ready for another week. Had to custom order it. 12 by 24 by 8 feet inside. Should be enough room. It's going to have to be. And Michael's back. Hey, Mike, before you... oh, he can't hear me. Hey, Mike, while you got your earphones on, this audio quality sounds a little rough.
Not sure what to tell you, Jim. Probably on your end, Ken, because I've got the...
Okay, that's fine. As long as I'm coming through to you loud and clear, that's fine.
Yeah, your camera's a little rough, too.
It always is.
So, got to get you back on your computer.
Jason would say that, well, I got to find my microphone. That's the real problem.
So,
no, I'm not going to let you guys buy another one.
What I went looking for, as I forgot to grab it in the rush to grab everything else, April. Patch.
Easter rabbit. The Easter rabbit. The Easter rabbit.
That's what the actual patch looks like in the bag. And if you're one of the members of the Patriot Patch of the Month Club, right now Ryan's got a limited edition rough sketch. You compare the rough sketch to the final product, it's not always the same. So kind of goes through and shows his idea and his rough sketch. So kind of a cool thing to have. Okay, so as I was saying, Patriot Patch Company. Nick, was it just Jim that was bad audio, or is it me also? So, I don't know. And am I quiet or what? Because people complain about the popping, so I don't know if it's the pop filter not working and it's... I'll piss.
He didn't say that, folks. He did not say that. It's not the pop filter. It sounds garbled. If you need to, reestablish a new connection. That's about all we can do. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
So what I'm doing is I'm testing the internet speed, see if my speed is checked, which it is not. It's actually pretty good for Charter.
And
So,
you, in your quality, just went way the hell up.
well, I got rid of the stupid pop filter, which is supposed to help. Maybe it doesn't.
Mike's in a good mood tonight, can't you tell? I'm glad I don't live in Wisconsin. Beware of incoming rounds.
Nah. All right, so we got rid of the stupid pop filter, which was $25 and supposed to help. So I don't know. Whatever. Waste of money. Should have spent it on beer. Anyway, as I was saying, if you're a member of the Patriot Patch Club Patch of the Month, then not only do you get the regular patch and the vinyl graphic, this and this. See, not only you get these, but right now for a limited time, you also get that, which is the rough sketch. So, kind of a cool bonus. So, Jim, what'd you talk about while I was off doing other things?
I told everyone that about the only thing I did this week in Guns and Reloading was to check on my reloading room.
How's that coming?
It's not ready yet. They said it's probably going to be another week. And I told the folks, pretty much the dimensions of it. That's about it.
Okay. So, Mark. Mark Kodra says he's running out of places to put the stickers. I think he just needs more creative. I'm sure he probably has a vehicle.
What about putting them on your sides of your gun safe?
Exactly.
That's what Jeremy does.
Or a fridge or a freezer.
Yep.
Windows
to your gun room.
Yep. All sorts of cool places you can stick them.
Mr. Kodra, take a thought about look at your tackle box, for your range box, your cleaning kit box. There's a good place for some stickers too.
Yep. All sorts of good places.
Put it on the inside of your garage door. Or put it on the outside.
Depending on where you live, that might be a bad idea. No.
Can't argue that.
Yep.
Oh, I take that back. I did do something. I checked out. I haven't been to, but I've checked out online 2 different organizations that I'm considering joining. One would be the Fort Bragg Rod and Gun Club, who happens to have a handgun, shotgun, and rifle range. From what I understand, it's only 100 yards. Yeah. But then there's another outfit about 2 hours north of me, up beyond Raleigh, almost into Virginia, and they're called Frontline Defense. And Frontline is one word, and their membership fee is pretty stiff. And they even hammer you with an initiation fee.
So they're proud of their range.
Well, they just bought it and built it, and the truth of the matter is, I think they're trying to recoup some mortgage money.
Well, off the backs of your members isn't necessarily the smart way to do that.
Well, in a way, I got to thinking about it, and it sort of separates the men from the boys. Yes. You're not going to take and invest $275 annually in an organization like that if you're not serious about it.
How long is the range?
They have up to 1,100 yards.
Yeah, that might be worth it, depending on what the rules and restrictions are on for range.
Right. Now, it's frontlinedefenseusa.com. All one word.
Yeah. Something to check her out if you're in the area.
Yeah. Initiation fee is $200. Annual membership fee is $275. And if I bring my wife, she is considered a guest.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But anyway, what you got there in your hand, Michael?
So, listener by the name of Drew sent us a couple presents. Well, sent me a couple presents to help out. One was an idea, and then the other one was to help out with the Cat 6 cable problem I had. So, what this is a handy dandy little tester, and allows you to test the cable to see if you've actually got it wired right. So, that was handy to have. And then this, remember when we were talking about brass prep? And we were talking about tumblers, and we were talking about using like a Christmas timer. So this is a timer.
Yeah.
So this is something that you could build by going to your local home improvement store. I'll have Drew actually post in the podcast group what all he did. But basically what it is, it's a 2-gang box with the lid. And then it's got an outlet, a pigtail to plug into regular 110. And then I haven't pulled it apart, but basically what it is he's got a timer. So basic premise would be power comes in here, goes through the timer into the outlet. You can set your timer. And this one's actually pretty fancy. It's got a couple settings for it. It's digital with must be a battery backup because the clock's on right now. So you can go ahead and set 2 different timers. I'm guessing it might be for maybe both outlets are split. I'm not sure. I forgot to ask Drew about that. So, but it allows you to set your timer for your media polisher or whatever you want to set it for. Instead of using one of those stupid little Christmas ones that are janky and don't work half the time, now you got a nice high tech one. So, but
it'd be interesting to find out how much he's got invested in it too.
So the 2-gang box and the plate, the out, and the wire, probably $10 max. Higher quality wire than it might be 15. The timer is the one thing I don't know about.
Well, that split outlet isn't a standard fee. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is. What happens when you want to make a split outlet out of this? There's a little tab in here that connects the top and the bottom. You just take a needle nose and snap it off.
Okay. That I didn't know. I'm no electrician.
I played Sparky for a year back in early 2000s, so I've got a basic knowledge. I know enough to be dangerous.
Well, we all know that.
That's beside the point.
So where are we where are we on the show tonight? Oh, what'd you do this week in Guns and Reloading, Mike?
Jack squat.
Jack squat. Well, you got the timer.
Yeah, so I got that. I got that. Other than that, really not much. With it being Easter holiday and everything. So
I see.
I had some family issues that came up with somebody had arthroscopic surgery, so we were taking care of them and stuff. So that was a busy weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Awesome Glock has a question. But before that, let's say hi to everybody in the room. The room is the chat room. And if you want to know about that, you can go to Reloading Podcast page. I post a link, or Reloading Podcast group on Facebook, and I post a link for the chat while we're taping this live. And it's kind of cool because I wouldn't have known until we played this back that the audio was absolute crap, unless there was nice people like Nick and Rex and Derek that were telling us the audio was crappy. And then they narrowed it down and said it was me, not Jim, because Jim was sounding good. So we got that all fixed up. Hey, Rex, when you hear this, post a link to your blog in the chat so I can announce it. And we've got Mark, which we already addressed, and he's talking about, his sticker problems. And so John Atkinson joined us. And, Mark says the wife won't let him put the stickers on the cars or the fridge. So he's been putting them on his motorcycle and the gun safe.
Get a new wife.
Depends. That could be expensive.
Well, he wanted to be a place to put the stickers. Stick them on her.
I'm thinking it might be cheaper to, build a wall to put them on. So, or maybe a second house. I don't know. Maybe a little cottage. I don't know. Might be cheaper. So, he did say that Frontline is a good place. They have a nice 1,000-yard range, or I'm guessing that might be 1,000-meter. So, Jim Madaw joins us, says howdy. Tony's a little earlier this evening. Tony Sirocco. Then we got JH586SW, Josh Kostner, Jared M, and Mr. Awesome Black, and Hun73R80. So, Mr. Awesome Black's question. I'm getting pressure signs at max loads, but only at 2,800 feet per second. It's 223, 55 grain, Hornady bullets seated at the cannelure using Shooter's World tactical powder. What would cause this? Well, off the top of my head, I should probably silence my phone before we start this. I think that's probably the second time in 197 episodes I've done that. So yeah, off the top of my head, I should definitely silence my phone.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what did he say the velocity was on his ammo?
It is 2,800 feet per second.
Bullet weight?
55 grain.
That's not even a max load.
It's Shooter's World tactical powder, so I'm not familiar with that powder. It very well could be.
I agree.
Excuse me. Internet. We can find out. In the meantime, poor Jim. He's got satellite internet, so yeah, that's tough. So Mark's response to you getting a new wife. The wife lets me buy guns, motorcycles, and reloading stuff, not trading her in anytime soon. It's only been 17 years. Yep, smart man.
Cheaper to keep her, Mark.
Definitely.
I've been there, done that. We ain't talking about it.
Not doing there. Not going there at all.
No, sir.
All right. So it is Shooter's World tactical powder.
That sounds like it might be some kind of surplus powder, bottled up by somebody, and just like Hogden got his start. Shooter's World tactical powder. That sounds like something like BLC2 or a WC844 or 846, whatever. It sounds like a ball powder, something like that.
All right. So here's the skinny on it. Tactical rifle propellant. This propellant has been a secret of OEM loaders for some time. It's cleanest 223-308 spherical propellant, so it is ball powder. Superior alternative to H335 and BLC2. Optimized for 55 grain 223 and 147 to 150 grain Winchester, 308 Winchester. Sub MOA accuracy with numerous match loads. So Mr. Awesome Glock, what charge weight? So are you using a 24.5 charge weight? Because according to this, you should be getting 3241. But it doesn't say what length the barrel is.
3241 sounds like a pretty stiff load.
Yeah, it's a 54,699 pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's using a 16-inch barrel. So let's see here.
Well, it's roughly 25 FPS per inch. Anywhere between 25 and 50 FPS.
So I'm trying to get the actual load data for this, so bear with us. Yes, I know. So JH586SW says it's made in Europe and imported. Most of the powder we have is imported nowadays. Not a lot of it is actually made here. So,
all the more reason to stockpile.
Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Jim, what the heck are you doing?
Me?
Yeah.
I was taking a drink and I set it back on the table.
Aha! That's making a lot of noise.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So I'm looking for. So it's a high density, double base spherical propellant, low residue, low flash, cleaner than 748 BLC, 2 H335 surplus WC 844, and has high utility, can meet 55 and 62 grain, 556 velocity, and then up to 308, blah, blah, blah. I want low data. Let's clean shot. Pistol. Some interesting powders here. Rex, then email it to me. All right. So 55 grain full metal jacket. Load length should be 2.245. Starting charge is 17.5 with a 2509 velocity. Max charge is 24.5 with 3241. If that's a Remington case.
Do they happen to say the length of the pressure barrel?
No. That would be nice.
I can almost guarantee it's going to be at least 24 inches long.
Yeah. So I'm looking to see, but it doesn't look like they have that information.
And with Mr. AG's short barrel, that would be about right then. It could be about right.
It doesn't explain the pressure signs, though.
Well, didn't you say 24.5 is the max load?
Right. But a shorter barrel isn't gonna.
You're going to get the pressure. You just won't get the velocity.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pressure would be the same as in a bolt gun.
Yeah. But with it being in a semi-auto, because 16-inch would make me think AR. So it's going to bleed off gas different than a bolt would.
Right.
And it's going to release sooner than a bolt would.
Right.
So theoretically, it would lessen the chance of overpressure because let that pressure off. Well, I guess kind of the questions I would have would be, Mr. Awesome Glock, would be what brass you're using and what's your overall length. I know you said you're seating it to the cantilever, but that doesn't tell me anything, unfortunately, because there really isn't a standard for where the manufacturer puts a cantilever. You could get 4 different companies and you're going to have them in slightly different spots.
Mike's exactly right. I'm not questioning and quibbling with his point, but the limiting factor on the ammo length is really not where the cantilever is placed. It's where the bullet tip or the bullet nose has to have a bit of clearance, at least 15 thousandths clearance in the AR magazine.
Right.
That's what sets up OAL in that cartridge.
Yeah. But if he's seating to the cantilever and the cantilever the cantilever is set deeper on the bullet.
Yes, sir.
Then it would make the combustion chamber, shall we say, smaller, therefore increasing pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Versus
That's right.
It out farther. So that would be an important thing. That could. And no, I don't think Magnum primer versus regular primer is going to cause it.
I agree.
So I would check those couple things. Check your overall length versus what they say should be overall length. Obviously, you're seating it to mag depth because it's going in a magazine. But back that load off, definitely. But I'm sure you figured that already. So Federal brass, Federal 205 primers. Okay. So the brass is different than the Remington. You could theoretically have, well, I mean, even if it's just standard Federal brass, you could have a huge variance in your case capacity. So,
yep.
I guess it all depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go, Mr. Awesome Glock. I mean, you could get serious and get a primer pocket plug and start checking case capacity.
What's his charge? What is his charge? Did he say?
Did you do the 24/5 charge? That's the only drawback with the chat is it does take a little while. So. There. Okay. So I asked him, Jake wants to know if he's crimping. If he's over crimping, that could cause it. Yeah, definitely.
Unless he's using a Leaf Factory crimping die, it's pretty hard to over crimp because if you over crimp, you wind up buckling the shoulder, expanding it beyond to the point where it won't fit in the chamber.
Yeah. So. All right. So this is kind of one of those, what are you doing for troubleshooting? I mean, this is kind of a basic. This is what you're going to do for troubleshooting when you have issues. So he said light crimp. If it's a Leaf Factory crimp die with a light crimp, where you're making it even again, and you don't really even see a line, probably not the issue. With the factory crimp die, though, you can very easily over crimp, but it's very visible. I don't know if I still have the case around here or not. Let me check my pile over here. Oh, yeah, that might have been it.
I apologize.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. One of the few cases that stayed on is exactly what we want, gang. This is a 308 brass over crimped with a Leaf Factory crimp die. You notice that distinct ring right there?
Yep.
That is what happens when you over crimp with a Leaf Factory crimp die.
That looks like factory ammo.
Nope.
No, I know that, Mike. I'm just saying that stab crimp on there, that looks like factory ammo.
Yes, it does.
That's what they call it in the ammo factories, by the way, is the stab crimp. That's why Lee calls it a factory crimp die.
Well, there's a couple cartridges. So one of the things you want to do, see that tray that I just pulled out here and launched all the way across the floor? Keep your mistakes. Because first off, you're going to learn from your mistakes because you're going to look at your cartridges and go, okay, what did I screw up here? What did I screw up there? Second thing, you can use it to teach others.
Mike, point the camera at yourself.
Okay. And yes, Derek. Yeah, it's been a day. So I don't know. All right. So it's kind of, I guess it was kind of apropos that I just launched everything all over the place. So when you're going and setting up your progressive and you don't quite do it right, you get stuff like this.
Yeah, I've done that.
Shootable, right? Come on. You can shoot that puppy. Here, let me get the camera to focus so you can really see.
Looks like somebody bit on a lipstick tube.
Kinda. So much for the camera focusing.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
There. Yep.
So there we go. Yeah, that was a 40 Smith & Wesson. Till a bullet fell over because I was going too fast. And yeah. Amazingly enough, those bullet seating dies will shove that bullet into the case anyway. So there's another life lessons for you folks. Derek says fireform that bad boy out. Oh yeah, I'll just jam that puppy right in the barrel.
Yeah, that's right. It'll buff right out.
That's right. Buff right out. So Mr. Awesome Glock seeded them to 1.8350 ogive. So flat primers, ejected marks, the cases were ejecting forward. That's too much pressure. So my question for you on that is, do you have an adjustable gas block on your rifle? If so, have you done anything with it? If not, if it's just a standard gas block, that could partially be why it's throwing them forward, because I know mine does, but I don't have overpressure signs with mine. That's why I have an adjustable gas block over there to put on. So Russ says duct tape fixes everything. So valid point, Russ.
I wish you could fix stupid.
It just muffles it.
Especially when applied tightly and well wrapped completely around the head and mouth in the general area of the human mouth.
Actually, in that case, it might fix it.
Cover the nose too. That way the asphyxiation will fix everything.
That's right. All right, so Rex, who's been joining us since we went back to video, because he doesn't have Facebook, so he either listens to the podcast or joins us on video, has his own blog, and it's rexstalkshop.blogspot.com. So swing by, check it out. I'll have a link in the show notes. Check it out. It's a pretty good blog. So wanted to get that out there. We've been trying to do that for a couple of weeks now. So, all right. So Jim?
Yeah.
Measuring.
What are we going to measure?
I don't know. Just going to kind of go through a couple of the different ones. I don't know. I haven't even grabbed any powder yet. So, but
measuring tools. Well, you start out with a powder measure. And what a powder measure does, it's a volumetric system. It's not considered to be as accurate as a weighing system. Like, yes, exactly. Mike's got 2 nice scales out there, 3 nice scales. One looks to be that old Redding he had. I see a 505, at least one 505.
Still has a rubber band on it just for you.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Somebody treat a scale that way.
So this is that Krupp American that I was talking about. And
didn't see a thing about it. There we go. Krupp American.
I
didn't know Krupp made the scales. I thought they made coffee makers.
They do now. At one point in time, they made scales and a whole bunch of other reloading equipment. So I'm going to take pictures of that later and send it to one of our listeners. He got a hold of me and says he's got some contacts over in Germany with the actual Krupp company. I suppose it would probably actually be Krupp. Maybe. I don't know. My German ancestors are rolling over in the graves right now. So,
well, it'd be interesting to find out if it really is literally the same company.
It would be interesting. So, all right. So there's lots of different ways to measure powder. Well, there is and there isn't. So you either have weight or you have volume.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Kodra, I completely agree. He said Chargemaster is the way to go. Never go back. I have talked to lots of people and they love their Chargemasters. The Lyman actually is pretty good too. But other than that, I've got the Hornady AP Auto Charge sitting over there and it's collecting dust because I haven't turned the damn thing on in 4 months because it shuts off by itself. The scale still works fine, but it will not throw powder. So that's a whole different story. But so we've got all sorts of different things. Somebody remembers from when I was showing off the Lee dies. Excuse me. Lee has powder dippers, and they send them with most of their dies. And what the powder dippers are is they are different calculated.
Can't see them, Mike. Put them down a little bit.
Yeah. I got to lock the camera in too. All right. So what these are is these are different.
Mike's got the dropsies tonight, guys.
Mike's just having a day. All right. So we've got different, and you can see these have all got different numbers with CC after it. What's CC stand for?
Cubic centimeters.
Correct. So what's so special about cubic centimeters, Jim?
Well, it's two different systems of measuring by weight and or volume, as you said. Cubic centimeters, that's metric, of course, and excuse me. And it also it's more universal in other countries around the world than the U.S. United States decided to stay on the English system that we have had for 200 years or thereabouts. But President Reagan pretty much kicked that in the head and says, no, we're not changing the metric.
Right.
But anyway, you can convert. It's very easy to convert back and forth, back and forth. And you can convert grains into grams, not grams. What's the weighted measurement? Kilograms. Grams. Yes, it is grams. You can easily convert grains into grams. In fact, I think there's 28.5 grains in a gram. You guys that keep that kind of trivia in your head, help me out, would you please? I just happen to know there's 437.5 grains to the ounce. That's all I know for sure. Maybe it's 28.5 grams to the ounce. I don't know. But anyway, Mike, what is that on the 505 in black and white on the belly of the scale? Thank you, 15.432. Mike, what is that black and white stuff there? Is it a conversion table of some kind on the first 505? On the 505, I should say.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah. I was giving him a bunch of sass about that. I can't make it out, Mike.
I know. It's being a pain.
Something converter. Something to grain converter.
It is ounces to grains.
Heck, Mike, can you confirm whether or not I was right? 437.5 grains to the ounce.
Now let's get a little more light on the subject and see if it'll help. It was for a second. My problem is I'm jittery.
Lay off the coffee before the show.
There we go. Aha.
Yep.
Okay.
There I am. 437.5 grains to the ounce.
So
hey, the old man got one right for once.
Yeah. So with the way that scale's tipped, can we actually weigh stuff like that right now?
Hell no. Good God, no. You'd be killing somebody you do that.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing too. Mike, if you're doing that, roll that the other way and show me the bottom of that so we can see the adjustable foot. Down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You see, guys, that foot adjusts, it levels. You want to adjust and zero the scale out every time. As a matter of fact, Michael probably, yep. Well, the table was slightly off level. Not much, but it's still a little bit off. But the point is, you use that thing to zero out the scale. That'll level the scale. Excuse me. Yeah, Mike is bouncing around a little bit.
I was trying to see if I could get it to go perfectly level, which I can't. So we'll roll with what we got. So now what we're going to do is Jim's going to walk me through how to level the scale.
Well, first thing you have to do is put the beam back in the scale.
Yes, I do.
Well, I was incorrect. You had to move the level out of the way, guys.
Yeah. So handy thing to have, $3 at hardware store.
Yep. You might want to move the scale a little closer to the camera so it's more in the field of view as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Mike has put the beam in the scale, and on the left end, you'll notice a small piece of copper, about the size of a postage stamp. It's what's called a magnetic damper. The copper is actually not magnetic. We all know that. But the point is, there's a magnet in there, and that magnet actually dampens the sudden or the swift movement of the scale. Used to be some of the old scales that are out there, they used a paddle that was on the bottom of the beam in the pivot area, and there's one right there. I'll be damned. That paddle was filled into an oil bath. Turn it 90 degrees if you would, Mike.
Yep.
So we can see the actual width of the paddle. Thank you, sir. But anyway, the point is that paddle is in a fluid, a thick viscous fluid, such as lubricating oil. And there it is in the well. And that kept the scale from bouncing around so much. Oil dampened. Well, whereas the OHAUS scale, the OHAUS manufactured RCBS 505, it is magnetically dampened by the little copper tab on the left end of this beam. Mike has also forgotten to, or he's been busy playing with the other stuff and trying to follow along. But Mike also needs to put the powder pan holder, or the powder carrier, the pan carrier. That's it. He needs to put that on, and now he's got to put the empty pan on. It's not something you know to be taken lightly. Yep, Mike has just shown you that he's wiping out the inside of the pan. Now Mike knows he's got that pan on backwards, which is okay, because no, not that way, Mike. Yes, that's what I was talking about. Thank you, sir. We realize that there are lefties out there, but that's a right-handed scale. That's a proper way to assemble an RCBS 505 grain measuring scale. Okay, there's 3 poises on that thing. Not poisons, poise, P-O-I-S-E. If you look, that's the big one that measures hundreds of grains, tens of grains, I should say. The big black one, and the second one in the middle measures whole grains. Excuse me. And the last poise, out closest to the powder pan hook, it actually measures tenths of grains. And I'll tell you something. When I was in Robin Sharpless's, Redding Reloading Products scale room, that particular room is off to itself in the Redding factory. That room is kept very clean. It's not a clean room. He let us walk right in, but it's still kept very clean, very neat, very little dust. And if what Robin says, the lady in there is a clean freak, and she's a absolute passionate, an absolute demon about keeping those scales working, getting those scales to work well and correctly. But anyway, so if you notice, the scale that Mike's got there is almost on the level. On the left side, it looks like you actually needs to lower that end of the scale to level it and to zero it out. I'm not sure what Mike's doing. He's doing something to help us out. But in a few minutes, I'm going to ask Mike to put a small pinch of powder. There he is. He's leveling it out. I think you're going the wrong way, friend.
Yep.
In a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask Mike to just take a little pinch of powder, just between his fingertips, and just put it in the pan once he zeroes it out. Oh, you can't zero it out, Mike, unless the poises are all set for 0. Is the whole grain poise set properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the way that one sits.
All right, then you might have to bring him back up. But if you notice, that thing sort of stops by itself. If you didn't, there's a knife edge there in the middle of the scale assembly. You'll see there's a knife edge right there by that little tab. Yes, that's it, Mike. Thank you. It's a knife edge. It's in a V. He's actually pointing you at a knife edge, a little wedge of a thing, sort of like an upside down teardrop if you look at the end of it where his finger is. But anyway, that's the knife edge that scale actually rests on. To reduce friction, to make things easier for the scale to pivot. Yep. Now he's got it set. And look at that. It leveled itself right out. I might be wrong, but you could probably drop it 1/10 of a grain, Mike, on the left end. That's how finicky we want to be, guys. That's how finicky we want to be with our scale. Now, Mike, do you have any pistol powder handy? If you do, there you go. If you would, grab a couple granules or out of the lid, pour some in the lid, and just show us roughly how much you have if you can, without making too much of a mess. Okay, trickler. That'll work too. And you'll actually see the powder come dribbling out, pouring it into the pan. And just about the time the first several kernels hit that pan, you're going to see the scales start to change. Yep. He's just pouring it into the trickler, that's all. A lot of people call that a powder dribbler. Mike, can you aim that so that we can see the hole in the pipe, in the tube of the trickler? Thank you, sir. That works too. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see the grains falling unless maybe you could prop a small 3x5 card in front of in between the trickler and the pan. That'll help. Now trickle away, my friend, trickle away. We might see it. It depends upon the video quality. We might actually see the powder actually start dribbling out. Like a monkey trying to make love to a football. There it is. I actually saw, yep, sort of looks like a rust color as it streaks down the screen. Must be picking up some reds or whatever. But anyway, if you notice, the scale is starting to change. Look on the left end. It's actually a slightly higher than what Mike set it for. Mike, how much powder do you have in that pan? Can you show us? That's it. Maybe 25, 30 granules, kernels, if you want to call them that. And look, he's a little heavy. He's a little heavy above zero. When you're above the line on the left side, you're heavy. Yep, I'm actually surprised. We can actually see the granules dropping. He's probably got 2/10 of a grain in there, and you saw that, guys. There just wasn't much powder there.
All right, so Jim, if I want to throw a charge, what do I do? Do I just keep pouring powder in and then try and guess what it is, or what?
Well, since we're reloading and we're following we on the Reloading podcast and try to advise everyone to use published loads, we pick up that Sierra book you got right there, and we find out what charge we want for what particular caliber we're shooting. So what I'm saying is, well, just for example, since Mike and I both like the 40 S&W, let's find a load for 165 grain bullets, 180 grain bullets, whatever it may be, and the appropriate charge of WW748. Or was that 296, Mike? I honestly forgot.
748.
Okay, then we better use a rifle charge. So we're going to change calibers. We're going to move up to 223. So what we got to do is we got to find a recipe for a 55 grain FMJ. Since Mark Kodra brought that up, 55 grain FMJ in over top of WW 748.
$25.1 grains would be the minimum charge.
Okay, but the point is, you guys have just learned something. We're up to about 3, maybe 4/10 of powder, 4/10 of a grain of powder, and Mike was trickling there for at least 30, 40 seconds. So the point is, this would take forever. And no, we're not going to take and just pour it in your cartridge and stuff a bullet in it. That's the stuff a Trumbo does. I'll pay for that. That caveman out there in California, real into California.
Yep.
The caveman. Oh, woman, bring me food. Oh, geez. Anyway, no, the point is we have to have a more convenient way of measuring out how much powder we want. So, in what Mike was showing you earlier, the little powder dippers, the way that works is you actually pour out a reasonable volume of powder into a container, preferably a static-free container, maybe a glass container or a metal bowl, I don't know. And you dip your powder into it in such a way that it's consistent. You actually dip right into it just like you're scooping flour out of a canister to make bread or something like that. And, you want to find out the gram conversion thing. That's what Mike was asking about the CC, the cubic centimeters to grains. You want to figure out how to do that. I'm not sure what you got there that's white, Mike. That's your pan that you used to use for dipping powder?
Yeah. So it's a little plastic coffee cup, but it's had enough powder in it. I'm pretty sure static electricity is not going to be a problem. And the other thing I have here is my card from Lee that comes with the powder dippers.
Okay, the card didn't come across well.
Oh, shoot.
And neither did the trickler.
Nope.
Now, unfortunately, Mike had a little boo-boo there, so what we're going to have to do is that powder that's in there is now on his floor, which is now makes it dirty. Hopefully he didn't lose too much powder. He probably lost the whole charge with our luck.
No, I didn't put much in the trickler.
Good.
So
anyway, so we got to have a way of measuring out more powder, which is what he was showing you earlier.
Yeah. So one of the things that you can do is pour it in a coffee cup. Ceramic's probably better. This one's plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Jim was talking about getting consistent, well, one of the things that the big thing with the powder dippers is you're measuring by volume versus weight. And we'll go through that later. But right now I'm going to use a powder dipper for this purpose.
Don't see a thing.
That's because I haven't grabbed it yet. I was busy trying to grab it as I was standing up and hit the table and water all over.
No problem.
So do I just throw the powder in and then adjust the scale, or what do I do, Jim?
No, Mike, you take your dipper and run it right into the powder cup, the cup of powder you have there.
Right. But how do I figure out where I'm at?
Well, you have that card there that you got with your dippers that tells you how much powder each particular measure will hold.
But volume doesn't translate to weight. Volume is volume and weight is weight, and they do not agree.
Well, you have to find a way of converting from one to the other.
But I'm not. I'm gonna weigh my charge using the scale. But what do I do?
Yes, of course.
How do I use?
All right. Well, you could go with trial and error. Let's just say you've got 10 10 other than they go from 1 to 10, the largest being 10. Yes, exactly. And just pick it out and try it. Just cut and try. Now you notice he's maxed out the scale, so now he's going to have to take and move some poises around to figure out how much the powder weighs. He's going to move at least two tens increments, maybe a third one, but I don't think so. I just don't know yet. Nope, too much. All right, so we know we have more than 20 grains and less than 30. Now Mike will go over to the whole grain poise, and he'll probably try to set it for about 25 grains and see if he's heavy or light. He's still heavy, so he'll move up to 28 grains. Perfect. Now we know it's trial and error. He's either 26 or 27 grains. It's not 27. It's not 26. So it's actually 5 plus probably 3/4 of a grain. Yeah, notice he's still heavy. Now he's got to go down to the 10th grain poise. And there again, I would go right to the 5 like he just did. Getting closer. We're still a little bit heavy, so I would bump it up 1, maybe 2 tenths. Remember, Mike's working left-handed, and he's a right-handed person. He's behind the camera, too. That's just about perfect. I mean, you might bump it left one more time, Mike, just to see if it's too heavy. Nope, dampened out perfect. So, Mike, I read that at 25.8 grains of powder. Well, I'll tell you this too, guys, because Mike has the advantage of being experienced with the lead dippers, and he knows how to be precise with them and consistent. He just come up with what's considered a pretty good load for 223, 25.8 grains. It's a good stiff load. Might even be a little bit hot. So now the question is, how does Mike get this particular powder into a cartridge? Well, usually that's done with what's called a powder funnel. It's a funnel that's tapered of course, on the top and tapered on the inside, but it tapered it small enough to fit over top of a cartridge mouth. Yep. That's what he's showing you. There it is. Yep, 2 different powder funnels. The other thing is too, yeah, Mike's got a cartridge or case block there. But the other thing is too that's interesting. If you look at the mouth of this pan, the brass-colored pan, it's very much tapered. I have never tried to pour powder directly into a case. I've always used a powder funnel like Mike's doing. It can be done, but you'd better have some steady old hands, seriously steady hands. And the way Mike jitters and twitches, he go crazy. But anyway, there it is. He just prepped the case. Assuming he's trimmed it, assuming he's primed it and all that, he just got a case ready for a bullet. And then next thing you know, you're going to see the bullet in it. Maybe not today, but he could if he wanted to.
Yep.
It's that simple.
So the other options that we didn't really show you are digital scales. And we can kind of go in. I'll cover that a little bit next week. It's kind of a simpler process. Tony wanted to know if I had calibration weight to check the scales. I do, because they came with my Hornady lock and load. Basically what they are pre-measured weights, and they're certified to be a specific weight. Now this one is a 10 grain, and then the bigger one is a 50
Yep.
grain.
Yep.
And so what you would do is you would throw that in your pan, adjust it out, see if your scale's set right. And you do the same thing with digital, which we'll show you next week.
I can do the same thing with my RCBS 1010 made by O-House. And I can zero it out like we just did, which is usually considered to be good enough. If it zeroes out, you know everything's copacetic. But if you can't zero it out, there's a weight that's in the adjusting screw on the left end that you can use to add onto the beam to increase the beam's normal capacity from 500 grains to 1,000 grains. Actually, it's 1,010 grains. And that weight is certified. It's very similar in appearance to the check weights that Mike has. Now, this is set up, in a way, it's set up similar, but it's set up differently. You can see, hi, Nancy. It's either snowing or raining in Wisconsin. And I'll tell you what, Mike, I know what the problem is. Go ahead, and I'll try to ad-lib through it. Get Nancy in the garage. Or either that or you're going to have to take in, well, the boys are in. Had a little bit of a urgent situation. Nancy, please don't hit the table. You might have to move the table to accommodate Nancy. Anyway, yep. If you need to mute the video, go right ahead. Because I know you're gonna be removing stuff real quick. Anyway, if you look at the Hornady scale, you can see the beam is engraved with the hi Nancy. The beam is engraved on the left hand with increments. Hi Nancy.
That all about? Now everybody's seen you. Okay.
Increments of tens of grains, and of course there's whole grains in the second poise and tenths of grains in the third poise. And if you look on the end, there's an adjustment nut that allows a person to calibrate. Thank you, Mike. It allows a person to actually calibrate the scale when needed. I've had my 1010 since 1980. And I've checked the weight with the check weight, on occasion, but I've never calibrated my scale. When I check it, it doesn't need calibration.
Now, see, this one here, I don't think I'll ever be able to use, because if you look at what's supposed to be the knife edge, you notice that one of them is not smooth.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you should send that back to Hornady, because that's a quality control problem.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to cover it.
Oh, okay. Oh, geez. Okay. But why has it got the Hornady sticker on it?
Hornady bought out Pacific. So this scale was actually purchased right about the time that Hornady bought out Pacific.
I see.
So what Hornady did?
They won't stand behind that. I can see that.
Yeah. So it's more.
Anyway, yeah, one of the knife edges is badly damaged.
Yeah, it's more of a collector thing, or who knows.
Mm-hmm. Mike, if you would, show us the left end of that scale. Not the beam, the scale. Thank you. Yes, you guys notice the increments? Those are tenths of a grain. On my 1010, I actually took a fine point Sharpie pen and I marked the increments, but fortunately somebody at Pacific had the foresight to actually mark it out so that you would have an idea if you were 2 or 3 or 4 tenths off on your weight.
That kind of shows a little better, but it doesn't want to focus very well. So
that helps a lot, Mike. Thank you. Yep, the light is what the camera needed.
The combination. I had the light on there, but it still didn't want to focus. So,
well, the white car behind it too isn't helping.
Yeah. At some point in time, I'll get a nice better recording studio and anyway. So that's kind of the basic with scales. You know, there's a lot to do with digital, even though you wouldn't think there is.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the fresh view.
We'll cover that all next week. So, and I'll really show you how to use a powder dipper and why I said that volume doesn't translate to weight. So,
let me answer me this, Mike, if you don't mind.
Yes.
That 25.7 grains. Did you happen to know that would come out that way?
No. What I did is with Lee, and I don't know if they've updated this or not, but what they do, now that we can see this a little better, is they list powders. Come on, focus.
It's focused on your ceiling.
Come on. Yes.
Anyway, it's a list of powders, and it's got a slide rule. Is what it is, an old-fashioned slide rule.
And it lists the powders, and so you find your powder. And mine was Win 748, and it tells you approximate how many grains each scooper is supposed to throw. So, it kind of gives you an idea, but it's not an exact science because this is calculated to convert dippers, but realistically, you really use whatever the Lee book says for the actual CCs because it's a safer bet. No.
Well, the other thing is too, don't you actually scrape off the top of the powder dipper when you actually bring it up out of the reservoir of powder to level it?
Yeah, and I'll show that next week.
Okay.
I'll go more in depth on the powder dippers and I'll do it with all the different powders because I've got ball, stick, and flake. So. But that will wrap it up for this week. Once again, nobody died. Thank God.
Poor Mike's poor trickler.
Yeah, well, thankfully it's metal. And that's one of the reasons I bought the Frankfurt Arsenal is because it is metal. It's one of the few out there that actually is solid metal. One of the things that does wear out on these though is you can see there is a groove in here for an O-ring.
Mm-hmm.
And that O-ring dries out because they didn't use a very good quality one. But how this works, if you look in the center, you'll see the hole in the shaft. And as you turn this, the hole sucks powder in. And then this is threaded in here.
Mm-hmm.
And like a screw auger, except for it doesn't have a center auger, it just pushes the powder down to the end.
Sort of on the order of a cement mixer, because remember, cement mixer doesn't have a center auger, but it has those blades that actually cause the mixture to come out. And that's what the threads in that tube do, is they just carry it out. Just sort of like it's an auger is what it actually is. It's just reversed.
Yep. I guess you could call it an outside blade auger versus a standard auger.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So next week, like I said, we'll show you electronic scales, and also then I'll show
powder dippers.
I want to take time to thank everybody who tunes in live every week. Thanks for the comments, the questions. As you can see from tonight, they're usually really good questions and definitely some nice SmartX comments too. Oh, and Jim.
Yes, sir.
Oh, never mind.
Yes, sir.
I thought I had an outlet here. I was going to show you that tab, but never mind. That's a GFI.
Okay.
Anyway, as I was saying, I say a lot. Good thing we don't turn that into a drinking game. Everybody would die before the end of the show.
From alcohol poisoning.
Exactly. All right. So I want to take time to thank everybody who tunes in live, and all the questions, all the answers that we get, all the input we get from the live chat is awesome. I know there's some people out here in podcast land who don't like it. I'm sorry, but it is part of the show now. I try and edit out some of the extra stuff that's more chat between us than them, rather than leaving it in. But there's a lot of it I leave in still. So it's important. And you can always join us. You know, if you swing by the Reloading Podcast Facebook page, I post a link there every Tuesday night, about a half hour before we go live, which is 7 Central. So.
Yeah. I have a quick question.
Yes.
Does that link change every week?
Yes, it does.
And the reason why it changes every week, guys, is because we are putting up a new recording on YouTube, and YouTube gives us a new and fresh link every time.
Otherwise, you can just go to the Reloading Podcast YouTube page on Tuesday nights, and we'll be there.
Yep.
Want to thank Drew for the timer and the tester. Greatly appreciated. Want to thank everybody who continues to give input with emails and comments and text messages to 608-467-0308. Voicemails to 608-467-0308. That email address, loadingpodcast@gmail.com. Once again.
I have a quick question. If Drew would be so kind as to inform us as to how long it took to build it and how much he invested in that timer.
Yep, I'll message.
If he wouldn't mind. Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool setup. So I look forward to using it. I got some 45 brass. It's got to get tumbled.
Mm-hmm.
On that note,
it's a lot better than forgetting and leaving your powder or your brass tumble for 72 hours.
Right. You know, all you're doing really at that point is just wearing out your vibrating tumbler motor. So, because the longer you let it run, the hotter the motor gets, and they've got a little fan under there that cools it, but honestly, there's not a lot of airflow.
Nope.
You want to let it run for a long time. Now, if you run it for 3 hours and you notice your brass isn't tumbled, let it cool down for a couple hours and then throw it back on again. You know, but just don't let it run overnight, because all you're doing is just shortening the life of the motor. And usually they don't have replacement motors. So usually once you burn them up, you chuck them. So
that's what I do with my Lyman 1200.
Want to thank everybody who swings by firearmsradio.tv and hits up the Amazon and the Brownells link. As I said last week, Brownells is only on the main page. Amazon, we still have a link on the Reloading Podcast page. So there is a new site, a new group, I guess you could say, that is pro-gun. Another somebody taking a run at Facebook. I don't know how well it's going to survive, but we had a post on it in the podcast group. And so I hopped on and I created my own account. And then I created a Reloading Podcast group. So it's gungroupie.com, and check it out. Robert Haper was posted it on there. So it looks like it's going to have a fighting chance. So I told everybody that's in the Reloading Podcast group, if you sign up, leave me your handle for Gun Groupie, and then I'll add you to the podcast group over there. So one of the nice things about this is there's no stupid restrictions like Facebook has with the whole firearms and, you know, oh, is that a blatant attempt to sell something? It's pro 2A. It's pro everything else. They got FFLs doing proper FFL business on here too. So it looks like it might have some staying power because it looks like it's set up right from the jump. So
the thing is too that'll help is, you know, if it's going to fly, we have to take and go with their advertisers. Their advertisers are going to be, you know, looking for the numbers for the clicks coming from gun grouping.
Yeah. We have to invest our time in this to make this work. So I can tell you right now, we will allow reloading related sales on that. Don't want to do firearms just because you start running into different states and then you're running into 4473s. So we're not going to do firearms. If it's not something that you have to fill out a 4473 for, if you go buy it from a regular firearms dealer, game on. On the Gun Groupie page, you can go ahead and post it for sale. And I'll have that all set up and everything. So if it is something that needs a 4473 for, you get one warning and then you get booted. So, and I'll have all that written up and everything. But it's going to be a nice group, but we got to invest the time in it, gang. So, and it'll be nice to not have to worry about, oh crap, that I put the wrong verbiage in here and they think we're selling stuff. So that'll be the nice thing about that. So, and we'll have all the rules laid out just like we do with everything else. We want to keep it family friendly. So just like Reloading Room and the Reloading Podcast group, watch your language, mind your cues, that type of thing. No F-bombs and that type of thing. So we definitely
it's not that we're not saints, that we think we're saints, guys. It just, we realize that sort of verbiage just isn't necessary.
And there may be coming a time where we create a separate group where there so many restrictions. For those fans of We Like Shooting, the Patreon group, we affectionately, those of us in it affectionately refer to it as the Star Wars, the Mos Eisley Cantina of Facebook. So, you know, that's something that we're looking at into. I don't know if we'll ever do it on Facebook, but definitely it's a possibility for the Gun Groupie site, if it takes off, that we'll create a separate Patreon only group that doesn't have so many rules and regulations. So if that's something that interests you, send me an email at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. So if you're not on Facebook or you're not in the podcast group and you want to join the Reloading Podcast Gun Groupie group, send me an email, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com with your handle, and I'll get you added. So I think that about covers everything for tonight, other than speaking of the Patreons. We want to thank everybody that steps up and sends us some of their hard-earned money, so we can continue to do this and do other fun stuff and buy different equipment. Like the RCBS scale we use tonight, that's going to be a giveaway. So there's a bunch of other stuff around here that's going to be a giveaway. The Pacific scale and the Reading scale are my personal collection along with the Krupp, so those won't be. But there's a lot of other stuff in here that we see that will. So I'm actually going to actually get my video camera out and have my kid help me, who's a aspiring videographer, and actually shoot some proper video on how to use a scale and set up the scale and everything like that. And then once we do that, we'll give this RCBS 505 scale away, which, by the way, it's a pretty damn nice scale. So
yes, it is.
So on that note, folks, you know, today here in Wisconsin, it's spring elections. We had a few different elections, one of which was for the state Supreme Court. I don't want to get political, but getting serious, folks. My two pieces of advice: find your state groups and get involved, and your national groups and get involved. I won't tell you who to join or who not to join, other than do not join the National Association of Gun Rights. I cannot, in any good conscience, tell you to give money to that group. They had a huge hand in allowing the bad legislation to be passed in Colorado when that went down, when they could have had a hand in stopping it. So, and they really haven't changed much. So
Well, NAGR was known to be a show for the gun control crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, um, I'm still a life member of NRA. I still support NRA. In fact, I give $30 every month to Project 150, which is something that a few people got together and started. What we're doing through We Like Shooting is giving away a annual membership. Actually, I think it's 7 or 8 now every month. Annual membership to NRA to get somebody joined, and then from there, it's on them to become a 5-year or a life member. You have to have been a member for 5 consecutive years, or you have to be a life member in order to vote in the Board of Election. It's vital. The NRA is still savable. Yes, I understand they do some stupid stuff. I understand the current leadership out in Washington, Wayne and Chris and the rest of that gang is not what we want, and they're not being helpful in any way, shape, or form. The organization itself is still savable. There's a lot of people on the board that care. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people on the board that don't show up for meetings. Adam Kraut's running for board, and he actually posted something on his page earlier this year about board member attendance to board meetings, something they get reimbursed for. They get paid to show up for the board meetings, and there's still people that don't. So check it out. Make your own decisions. But if we get the bad apples out and get the good people in, we can turn it around, because the board's who decides who's running the executive branch. So, okay, stepping off my soapbox. Thanks, everybody. Teach somebody how to reload. Take them shooting. You know, if you've got friends or people you know that supposedly anti-gun, take them shooting. It's very rare once you actually get them out on the range and they actually get behind the trigger and realize just how fun and how safe it is, that they still be anti-gun. And that's the biggest thing we can do. Don't try and shut them down. Take them shooting. Have some fun with them. So, and on that note, unfortunately, Trevor is back to busy season, so I don't know if he's going to be joining us much over the summer. So he's seems to, even though he's trying to do less stage planning and less event planning, he seems to be doing more and more. So even though he says brass prep sucks, I don't know if we're going to continue doing the tagline for now. I think we're going to arrest that in honor of Trevor and the fact that he's working like a dog up in Canada. I asked him if it was getting close to 0 Celsius yet. He didn't respond, so I took that as a one.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Uh-huh.
I bet he responded like I do on when we're off the air.
No, actually,
with obscene gestures. With obscene gestures you can't see.
Yeah, no, I didn't even get a response for him on it, so it was kind of funny. But so you know, Jason and Jeremy both unfortunately had stuff that came up tonight, so they weren't able to join us. But thanks to Jim for joining me, because frankly, doing this by myself would be ridiculous, and I'd just get yelled at all night. So.
Well, we'll do our own taglines and call it good. How's that, Mike?
Sounds like a plan to me, Jim. So keep that brass shiny.
And guys, squeeze. Don't yank that trigger. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We greatly appreciate it.
Amen.